an addendum, a little bit of a note after yesterday's video, because I think there's a seductivity to pessimism, to negative outlooks on the future, to predictions of doom and gloom, which I tried to be balanced yesterday, and hopefully I was when talking about my concerns about the Olympic Games coming to Paris. I think they're fair anytime an Olympics is coming to town. Statistically, not usually great for the city involved. But that said, in life right now, I'm really trying to rewrite the internal narrative I have about my life, because I've spent a lot of my life feeling very much like a victim, which I am, as it turns out, in so many ways. However, the last thing I really want is for that to define me, to propel how I think about myself, how I see the world. And through therapy for the last few years, coaching, just thinking about this a lot, reading, I've come to the decision in the last 6 months, the new narrative, right? I have an old narrative in my head, one that I would like to exchange for a new one. And I think it's really important to also open up about that, because I don't know where you are in your journey. Maybe you have a very positive inner monologue, and I very much hope you do. I have not for most of my life. Anyways, I need to go shower. We're gonna go get a couple photos hopefully today, see my buddy Adam for coffee, and then we'll see what else we get into. But you know what always ups my outlook on life? A little bit of coffee. Hey, so I just posted the book club, today's book club number 14 for my patrons. And while I posted it on a book that I think is largely fluff, that definitely could have been significantly shorter, there were some really good nuggets that I pulled out of it. I think it's a really good post. Hopefully it's helpful to those who read it. But the book that I wrote my book report on last week, I think, or however long ago that was, here it is. The Psychology of Money, a very popular book right now. I saw it on a whole bunch of lists. I really enjoyed this book. But one of the things that he talks about, the seductiveness of pessimism, and how it's really easy to fall into pessimism. Often optimism is not really a bad outlook to have on a lot of things in life. All right, so his book club 13, it was actually book club 13, which is his second book. The quote that I'm looking for in here that I can't find is that pessimism sounds like somebody trying to help you, while optimism sounds like somebody trying to swindle you. And that's so incredibly true. But in reality, we need them to coexist, and going too far one direction or the other is how we end up in a lot of trouble. And there is one line in here that I did find, which is that you can only be an optimist in the long run if you're pessimistic enough to survive the short run. Bad news happens really quickly. Good news takes a long time to come together. It's really important to keep an eye on that short game and make sure that nothing's going to but then at the same time, don't forget that over the long haul, things could be trending upwards. Anyway, if you want to read a whole bunch of other thoughts that I had from reading this book, last week's book, I'll leave a link to the book club below. It's open to the public on this one. Usually they're not. But the first of the month, I figured, make them public so you can see what's going on behind the scenes. I enjoyed this book. I think it was a good post. I don't know if you noticed this. It's nice to have laundry done finally that isn't the result of a doggy explosion. He's doing great, by the way. But laundry's done. We gotta go. Update. It's solid. Well, in classic fashion, unfortunately, my coffee date, Adam, has canceled last minute. However, this might have been slightly foreseen, and luckily, Matt's back in town, so we're going to be able to have lunch with Matt. That might roll over into coffee. My goal would be to get photos from 2 spots today, lunch and coffee. We're running lower on the coffee spots, though, pretty quickly, because I'm getting to the coffee spots faster. The challenge is going to be getting all the boozy spots, because I'm not going out and drinking that much these days. It's going to be kind of a trick to get them all. I enjoy Rue Montorgueil. There's a lot of good stuff on this street, but honestly, most of it's like chains, McDonald's, sushi shop, other doggies. The other doggies part, there's definitely not a knock there. What you really want to do when you get to Rue Montorgueil is to get off of it. It's a really good central column for a lot of really good stuff, but generally you're going to want to take a left or a right and find your way to a lot of things that are just slightly off the quote-unquote beaten path here. But of course, take a stroll down Rue Montorgueil and just enjoy it for what it is. You never know what you're going to find. And there's some good stuff here. It's not like Mouffetard, which is just generally worth skipping. Who's this handsome devil? This is a Banh Mi that I had back with Jess. Actually, wow, this goes way back. So this is a place that I came to in COVID a few times, never came and sat inside because we weren't allowed to. And it's one of those places that I've really needed to come back to double check because the Banh Mi have always been very good. But do they stack up? What about the fondue? Yeah. Juicy, spicy, Lots of flavor, and I love that they made little mini baguettes specifically to the size of their own sandwiches. Fantastic touch. The bread is nice and soft. Oh boy, would I still recommend this. That last spot wasn't the intended coffee spot, although I did need to get a photo in there. And did I get a photo in there? Did I get a photo in there? You can see why I struggle with this, because actually, like when you're filming, you're talking with friends, filming is always the priority. But obviously, I'm out here to get photos. Anyways, where I need to get photos today is here in Montmartre at Clove. I haven't been here for a minute. Bonjour. I didn't get any slurping sounds, my bad. Clove is a really easy one to recommend, not only because they're just delicious, and they've got some really fun options for coffee, especially if you like a good pour over on hand, but they're not very far off the beaten path. They are just enough off of it that you'll notice there's not a lot of traffic outside, but they're only a block or so away from the paths that will normally take you to Sacré-Cœur. So if you're going to be going to Sacré-Cœur in Montmartre, give these guys a shout. Tasty coffee, cozy. That was almost an alliteration. Instead of tasty, I could have said cookieable. My inner thesaurus is broken. I don't even know if more coffee will help. What's a synonym for tasty that starts with a C or a K sound? Kraken. Oh, that's your brother? Convivial? Struggling over here. You're actually looking it up. Okay. I know. There's got to be something. It's really good, especially given that I've had a pretty rough go starting my life back over here in France and just the decade that came before it. I mean, it's pretty easy to see how I might have a little bit of a negative outlook on life sometimes, and there's a lot that we could dig into there. But one of the things that's been really, really helpful for me on a consistent basis to work more or less on trying to keep my chin up, let's say, is gratitude, as simple as that sounds. And it really helps, obviously, to have taken the risk and moved to a place that I love. I love this city so much, and I love living here. And it makes me so happy and feel so lucky that I've somehow figured this out, that I somehow ended up here. And so in those moments when I'm walking around like I am right now in Montmartre, one of my favorite neighborhoods in the city, strolling down the hill, and it hits me and I'm just like, oh, I'm so glad I live here. I latch onto that and I think about it for as long as I can manage to, and just take a moment to be grateful, not only that I'm here, but for everything in my life that enables, but also that sparks the same kind of joy. I'm a really lucky guy when it comes down to it, and I'm really grateful. Clap, clap. And speaking of gratitude, thank you so much to my patrons and today's patron producer, Andy Shax. But over the years, whether you were a patron for a brief period of time or you've been with me for a long time, and there are some of you that have been with me for a long time, thank you so much. You've also given me something to be very grateful for in the form of more stability than I've ever had in my entire life. The democratization of my income through something like community support has been wild and has been life-changing, even just from an emotional standpoint. To have that kind of support, I'm wildly grateful for it. So it's nice to take a moment here just to think about it as I walk through Montmartre. So grateful for the life I have here, and I'm so grateful for the people that make it possible. And to those of you that feel a little bit left out because I'm not thanking you because you're not a patron, thank you too for watching. I'm really glad that you're here, and all of you make a difference. If you're watching this right now, thanks for being a part of the journey. So I think for me, while it's definitely fun to be pessimistic and to cast doom and gloom over the future, and it can feel a little bit naive to be optimistic about the future, whatever that might look like, that pessimism can really eat away at you over time, and it can really eat away at you over time. I think that it just engenders a whole lot of anxiety and stress that may not be necessary. The world is so much better connected than it's ever been before, and we're so much more aware of horrible things happening all over the world that we would not be up to date on in real time if it wasn't for the little rectangular black mirrors that we carry around in our pocket. I've taken strides to consume a lot less social media, like a lot less. Slower news, taking it when I'm ready to read it and not feeling obligated to stay up to date all the time. And also then choosing to believe better for the future, for myself, for the world, but recognizing that my reach is limited. This is something else that I'll dive into in more detail in the future, I guess, but one of the things I've been thinking a lot about is how do I have an immediate impact on the people around me that I care about, that I can have an impact on, and starting there. The way that I was raised, a little bit of like a savior complex, like religious save the world kind of a thing, which is noble, but beyond me, I'm pretty sure. However, having a direct impact on the people immediately around me that I love, that I care for, that I employ, that I'm able to have an impact on, that's a better place to focus my time and energy on. And that includes you. If you're here and you're watching these videos, how can I turn around and give from what I've learned and invest back into people that I'll never meet, but hopefully somewhere around the world, I've been able to have a positive impact on. And you'll forgive me for ending on prepositions every once in a while. While I'm not arguing for outright optimism all the time, I certainly, personally, am trying not to subscribe to pessimism anymore. Might call myself a realist occasionally, but today has its own problems and let them exist here, and then we can worry about the other stuff when necessary and appropriate.